Good day, class. We are going to take a look at the topic percentages. Now, basically, percentages has a relationship with fractions and decimals. Right, so today we're going to take a look at the relationship between fractions, decimals, and percentages. Alright, now percentages, it is to note as well that percentages is basically also similar to a fraction because it is a part of something as well. In learning to calculate fraction, whether it is later on we do discounts, we do VAT, we do hire purchase, we do whatever it is that we do, simple interest, etc. All of that is really calculating a part of something, right? And then basically eventually either adding it back to a whole, subtracting it from the whole, or a variety of different things that are similar to what we have already learned in fractions. Okay, so we are going to start with the basic steps in understanding the relationship again between fractions, decimals, and percentages. Now this tutorial will be based on the worksheet that you will eventually get in class. Now the first thing that we are going to take a look at is so we're going to take a look at changing percentages to common fractions, right? So I'm going to show you a few examples. So number one, we have 1%. And how do we change a percent to a common fraction? All we do is put the percent over 100. Okay, now this one is simple because we don't have to reduce it or simplify it. Okay, however, if we look at another example to change 10% to a common fraction, we put the 10 over 100, but we can reduce it. Now this is the part where you can learn to use your zeros to reduce. Okay, so therefore we have 1 over 10 is our final conversion. Our third example, we have 20%. 20 over 100. We can use the zeros as well as what we learn in fractions. 2 into 2, 1. 2 into 10 is 5. So you're making this 20% is the same as 1/5. So basically, what we see in here is 1% is the same as 1 over 100. 10% is the same as 1 over 10. And 20% is the same as 1 over 5. Okay, so these are some of the common conversions that you will have to do. Let us look at another one. So we have a fourth example. 75% would be 75 over 100, right, which is equal to 25 into this is 3 and 25 into this is 4. So we have to know as well how to divide by certain numbers. Okay, so you should learn to divide by certain numbers, right? So you should learn to divide by 15, learn to divide by 20, learn to divide by 25. So those are some numbers other than your usual timetable that you should probably learn to divide. by actually writing out the timetable or practicing. Okay, so you know basically that 60 over 15, for example, is equal to 4. Right? 100 over 20 is equal to 5. So that means 20 could go into 100 5 times. Alright, and then we also have with the 25, we have 100 over 25 will be equal to 4. Right, because 25 could go into 100 4 times. Right, so we have different numbers as well that we can use, like 75 over 25, which is equal to 3. Right, we have 90 over 15, which is equal to 6. Now you have to be able to divide as easily as that. 45 over 15 is equal to 3. Alright, 120 over 20 is equal to 6. And so we keep going on. Alright, so this is an example of how it is at your stage, whether it is in standard 4 or standard 5, that you need to learn to divide by some of these numbers, and it will help you move faster. Okay, so you have to be able to move fast for the examination. You have to be precise, and the larger numbers that you use, it means that it would give you a chance to actually get your answers correct. So we're going to take a look at changing common fractions to percentages. Alright, so basically everything has to do with either multiplying by 100 or dividing by 100. So we're going to do the opposite now. For our first exercise, we had to change percentage to common fraction. So now we're going to do the opposite. So we have a common fraction 9 over 100. And we are going to change that to a percentage by multiplying by 100 over 1. Now again, we can cancel out our zeros. Now we don't just cancel all the zeros. There must be corresponding zeros in order for you to cancel it off. Okay, to cross multiply, as they say. So you have 9%. Number 2. Let us take a look at another one similar to that again, to show you how the cross multiplication works. So we cancel off 1 0 here, we must have a 0 here. Cancel off a 0, we must have a 0 here. And we end up with 5%. If we have a fraction like a half, multiply all of them, we have to multiply by 100 over 1. So 2 into 2 is 1, and 2 into 10 is 5, and 2 into 0 is 0. So our answer will be 50%. Okay, so you just have to take your time, and again, it falls back on, that is why teachers do fractions and decimals before they do percentage. So you must be able to know some of these topics before you actually try to do percentages. So students who are not good at fractions would struggle when they reach percentages. So that is why fractions is such an important part of your curriculum, that you need to actually keep drilling students. So even after we do this, we would be going back to worded questions for fractions to get you better at doing your fractions. Okay, so 4 into 4 is 1, 4 into 10 is 2. We have a remainder of 2. So we make this into 20, and then 4 into 20 is 5. 25 by 3 is 75%. Again, I'm reminding you that just before this I said that you must be able to work with numbers like 15, 20, and 25, etc. Not just your basic timetable from 2 to 12. Okay, so we have another one as well. 1 over 5 multiplied by 100 over 1. 5 into 5, 1. 5 into 10 is 2. 5 into 0 is, so our answer will be 20%. Now if we look at a more difficult one, we have the eighths. The eighths are like 1/8, 3/8, etc. Eventually you would realize how important it is for you to understand how important it is for you all to understand the eighths, how to work with the eighths. So we'll take a look at 1 over 8, and again we multiply by 100 over 1. Now this one is a little bit strange because 8 cannot really go into 100 just like that. So we'll try a smaller number. So we know that 4 could go into 8 2 times, and 4 could go into 10 2 times with a remainder of 2, and then 4 could go into that 25 times. We cannot cross multiply anymore, so we have 25 over 2. We have an improper fraction here, but do not fear, do not worry if you get answers like these, okay, especially if you're dealing with the eighths like 1/8, 3/8, 5/8, etc., 7/8, etc. You keep working. So now we keep working. We said we're going to make this into a mixed number, okay? So this is a percentage here, but we want to leave it like this. So we say 2 into 2 is 1, 2 into 2 is 1, 2 into 5 is 2, and we have a remainder of 1 over 2. So we have 12.5%. This will be very important for your exam. 12.5% represents what we later on will be doing is VAT, right? And they will ask you 12.5% of a number, but then we would revert back to using the 1/8, okay? So if they ask you 12.5% of $1,600, we would not use the 12.5. We would use our conversion. So that is why we are learning conversion, right? We would use 1/8 instead, because as I said, there is a relationship between percentages and fractions. So instead of using 12.5, it would be easier to use 1/8 of 1,600 to calculate our VAT. 8 into 8 is 1, 8 into this is 200. So our VAT will be 200, and then we add back our 1,600 to know what is the final payment to be made. Okay, so that is why this is an important part, and your conversion is basically very important. Most of these conversions is basically, and listen to me carefully, most of these conversions is basically used so that if students find themselves in a position where they cannot use certain figures in the terms of percentages, they can use the fractions instead, because remember, fractions was basically your first topic used. It was the easier topic, right? So if you cannot use the fraction, then you can revert back to using your percentages. So that is the second type of conversion. So we're going to take a look at the third type of conversion. So we're going to take a look at converting decimals to percentages. Alright, so number one, 0.1 would be equal to 0.1. Now, before I continue, sometimes I stop in between, but it's just to make sure you get a point across. Now, basically, what I mentioned before is all the conversions is either you multiply by 100 or you divide by 100. So converting decimals to percentages, we multiply by 100. Okay, so in doing so, we had learned before in decimals in our previous tutorial that when multiplying we have to move our point 2 places. So that means that this 0.1 we have to move our point 2 spaces. There's no digit here, so therefore we have to add a 0. So this will be 10%. A second example, similar to that, 0.3 would be 0.3 multiplied by 100. Our working would be 0.3. We have to move the 0.2 spaces to our right. We have nothing here, so therefore we have to fill the space with a 0. So our answer will be 30%. Okay? So we look at a third example. We have 0.45, which is equal to 0.45 multiplied by 100, which is equal to 45%. Notice that I did not put 0.45%. This will be wrong. Okay, I removed the 0. Okay, so I took off the 0. The 0 basically has no value. Okay, it has no value. Our fourth example, we have 0.02, and again 0.02 multiplied by 100. And if we move the 0.2 spaces, our answer will simply be 2%. Again, it will not be 0.02. Okay, that will be wrong. The two zeros have no value. Okay, because we had moved the point, making this a whole number. If we look at a fifth example, so I'm trying to give you variations in questions so that you would be able to answer all your questions, hopefully. So we have 0.375 multiplied by 100. And if we move the 0.2 spaces, our answer will be 37.5%. Okay, always remember to put your percentage sign. Okay, so that is basically how easy it is. You just move your point 2 spaces to your right. If you do not have enough spaces, then like number 1 and 2, then you fill it with a 0. Okay, now you can also have questions with whole numbers, which may not necessarily be frequent or you have to worry about for your exam, but I believe that by covering everything, it leaves no space for errors and assumptions. Okay, so again, you have 1.3, you move your 0.2 spaces, so this will be 130%. So this is possible to cross the 100%. So don't be worried if you have questions and you end up in situations like that. Okay, it is not something to worry about. Alright, so we're going to take a look at our last type of conversion. Our last type of conversion would be changing from percentages to decimals. So first we have 1%, and again reminding you, everything is either multiplying or dividing by 100. So our working will be 1, the point is understood at the end, so we have to move the point 2 spaces to our left. So we go into our left this time. Okay, so our answer will be 0.01. Okay, so we had changed it to a decimal. Okay, so we're looking at another question, another example. We have similar to this 7%, which is 7 divided by 100, which will equal to 7. Point is understood at the end. We take it 2 spaces to our left, right? So therefore we have 0.07. Number 3, we have 15, a 2-digit number now. 15% will be 15 divided by 100. So we move these 0.2 spaces, making this 0.15. All right. Number 4, we have 50%, which will be 50 divided by 100, which will be equal to 0.5. We wouldn't put 0.50 because this 0 has no value. So our answer will be simply 0.5. If we have 150%, it will be 150 divided by 100. And we move our 0.2 spaces, so therefore our answer will be 1.5. Again, it leaves the 0 there without any value. Okay, so those are some examples that you can take a look at in order to complete our exercises that I will be posting up for you all to do during the course of this week. And I will also be posting my conversion chart for you all to do and memorize, because it is important for you all to memorize conversion. So not only should you be able to do your conversion, but memorize it and be able to place it in descending order, just like fractions. Okay, so we look forward to the exercises and you all performing well on that so that we can move on.